Ladies and gentlemen, it is I, Hidden Flame, and we are back for another and the final episode of my Final Fantasies timeline. We are going to do a brief recap here. So, as you can tell, it is Final Fantasy 2, 1, 5, 9, 15, 10, 6, 7, 13, 8. You have the entire Ivalice series at the very end. Now, what is left? That is simple. It is 2 and 4. While looking through all the information, trying to find out what these two games would fit into the timeline, I could not find much. But what I did find is that Final Fantasy 2 and 4 are connected through Kane Highwind. Now, some of you may be asking yourself, how can one person connect two, if not three games? Well, it's two games at the moment, and those games are 2 and 4. Here's why. In Final Fantasy II, you meet a character in the town of Deist called Kain. Now, presumably, this is the son of the Dragoon Richard who joins your team, and he keeps telling everybody that he wants to one day become a Dragoon. In Final Fantasy IV, Kane Highwind is a Dragoon. In the DS version, you find out that Kane's father died fighting an empire. Now, his father was named Richard, who is also the name of one of the main characters in Final Fantasy II, named Richard Highwind. If that is not evidence enough, I don't know what is. Now, the only issue that I am having with the timeline is where am I going to put these two games, 2 and 4? And it wasn't until watching my buddy DJ Winza's channel and his recordings of Final Fantasy IV in the after years that I finally got where I'm going to place it. In Final Fantasy IV The After Years, once you make it to the final boss, he monologues about the fact that he put the crystals on to the planet to harvest knowledge and information about the planet. But because the current civilization, who has used the crystals to build up all of the information that he tried to get, they failed to come close to what he wanted. So it was up to him to destroy the world. But the heroes of 4.5 years banded together and defeated said boss. Now, in Final Fantasy V, yes, I am placing After Years and 4 before 5 for the simple fact that in 5, once you go to one of the elemental crystals, you find them in the process of shattering and or already shattered. So, this probably means that the crystals have gained too much information and has not been harvested. And so the crystals, overwhelming like a balloon, pops and the crystals explode. Thus, that is why when you get to the crystals and you look at the shards, you are given knowledge of jobs that you've never had. Be it Dragoon, be it Bard, be it Fighter, be it Summoner, things like on those nature. So that is why I'm placing 4 before 5. Now, yes, at the end of 5, the crystals are rebuilt, but they are more of a item where the heroes of light have to change their jobs to protect them rather than to seek out and defend them from monsters. Now they have to spend their entire lives and generations keeping these crystals protected. So, with this being placed in my timeline, it has come to my attention that while I want this to be the end of the Crystal series, that is not true. While the elemental crystals happen from 1 to 5, and the way I have it set up in my timeline is that 3 is first, the beginning of the Heroes of Light. In 1, they are there to help repair the emptied crystals and also to take them back from the 4 elemental fiends. Then, as it sits currently in the timeline, 5 on Final Fantasy V as the um, passing of the torch per se. It isn't really a like an ending, as the crystals do come back in the very end of my timeline with Final Fantasy 13 and the Ivalice series. Now, the crystals aren't in 8, so there is a bit of a split there. But in 13, at the very end of the game, you will see a crystal pop up out of nowhere and say, hey, we're going to rebuild the world. But then in Ivalice, in Final Fantasy 12 and 14, they use the crystals as teleportation items. And then in Final Fantasy in Final Fantasy 14, sorry, I keep getting these mixed up. You are summoned by the creator of the crystals once again, who you meet in 4. So the goddess or god returns. I don't want to give spoilers for 14 because it's way too long, and I don't know the story. I haven't finished it. But that is how I am placing 2 and 4 into my timeline. Okay, so now that we have everything put together, let me explain the full timeline. This is going to be a brief review, but I figured you guys might want to know how it's set. So, before I begin, you will notice in Era 2, there's a slight difference. I was piecing everything together, and I realized I had 8 and 13 split, or swapped. So, I'll explain it when I get there. So, let's start at the beginning. So, the timeline goes as follows. Final Fantasy III is when the Heroes of Light start their journey. They meet Hein, which they kill, or so they think, and then they go and save their fractured world by defeating the Cloud of Darkness. The Warriors of Light then travel to Cornelia, the very first city of Final Fantasy I, where they are supposed to fight a guy named Garland, kill Garland, take the princess back to Cornelia. But they realize, and on their adventures, that Mr. Mr. Garland isn't dead. So, as they go through, they learn about the 4 crystals, how they have to rebuild them, fight the 4 elemental fiends, go back in time, stop Garland, and defeat Chaos. Next, we have the world of Final Fantasy II, where things are getting back to normal, but there is a new emperor, an empire, looking to destroy or conquer the entire world. This is where we first meet the Dragoons in all their glory. We got Richard Highwind, his son Kain Highwind, who help defeat the Empire. We help the warriors and defeat the Empire upon his own death, which his son Kain takes up the reins of Dragoon. With Kain helping out with some rebuilding efforts in the kingdom of Baron, he joins up with Cecil, Rosa, Rydia, and the cast of Final Fantasy IV and learns of more crystals, helps reclaim the crystals before the events of 1 take place again, as without the crystals, the world pretty much comes to an end. Upon saving the crystals and defeating Zemus, anyway, they return to Earth and go about their lives. About 15 to 20 years later, a new villain comes along claiming to be the creator of the crystals. The creator then goes to say that the Earth, or the world that they're currently living on, is not as he sees fit, and thus he is going to destroy it. He's going to take the crystals and destroy the Earth. But Cecil and Kane's group does not allow it to happen. And thus, they defeat the creator, they protect the crystals, and go about their lives. Next, we see the events of Final Fantasy V taking place, where the crystals are shattering for some unknown reason. With the knowledge stored in the crystals, the Heroes of Light, collecting the shards, realize that the crystals hold the knowledge of their predecessors, giving them the powers of dragoons, summoners, bards, warriors, monks, fighters, and all the others. But once the final crystal is defeated, the villain Exdeath comes out to try and destroy the world yet again. Exdeath was originally encased in these crystals by another set of Warriors of Light, and thus the main villain of the Warriors of Light, Hein, the never-ending, as I like to call him, was encased and rebuilt himself as Exdeath using the powers of the crystals, my opinion. But with the Heroes of Light, or the Light Warriors is what they are called, or the Dawn Warriors, it depends on how you want to look at it, the Exdeath is defeated, and the Warriors of Light spend their next couple of generations protecting the crystals in secret. Now we get to the second era, the era after the crystals. Civilization is getting better. Things are getting more advanced. They use the powers of they rebuild the airships. In 9, we have all the airships around. Towns are becoming bigger. Kingdoms are starting to form and be more prosperous. Then comes the events of 15. Just a side note, guys, the information I have on 15 is still limited. At the time of recording, I still have not played it. But with the technological advances of 15, there is cars, the kingdoms are big, the planets are big, things are more modern. I'm still keeping it right here. Then we got the world of Final Fantasy X. At the very beginning, you see a world highly advanced, highly technological. Everything is perfect. Machina, machines, robots, do the bidding of men and women, while the humans spend their days in laps of luxury until the events of Sin, who come in, destroy everything. 1,000 years later, we see what is left of the world. The world is on the brink of destruction, with Sin being omnipotent, never-ending, which would bring in the third inclination of Hein. He refuses to die, but they call him something completely different from Hein. Correction, this would be the fourth incarnation of Hein. The first one was Hein himself with the skeletal warrior. We got the second version of Hein, which is Garland from 1, since he brings forth the time loop. Then we got the third version, which was Exdeath, and now we have the fourth version, which is Yu Yevon. But with Yuna, being the strong-willed character she is, figures out the best way to stop Yu Yevon is to destroy the things that make him, or Hein revive, and thus he has nowhere else to transform, so back to the void he went. Thus, the events of Final Fantasy 13-2 come around, in which Yuna has to once again take the reins of being hero to stop a new force called Vegnagun. With her help of her cousin Riku and her friend Pain, with two other groups of sphere hunters, the nine of them help end the reign of terror that Hein's fifth version comes to be. This character is named Shuyan, who while in the void takes up the memory of a former guardian named Shuyan. He thinks he is doing it out of love, but he just wants to destroy the world like he always does, uses Vegnagun, and almost succeeds if it wasn't for Yuna and company. The next part is unconfirmed, and it will not be confirmed until Final Fantasy 13-3 comes about. But at the end of the HD Remaster International version of Final Fantasy X and X-2, you get an information in a little audio drama that Sin returned. So whether Yuna wins this fight or not, we will assume she does not win this fight with the way things are going from the here on out. The world is deteriorating. Uh, Everything is totalitarianism. The world is dying. This is the events of 6. All magic is gone. No one is born with the ability to do magic. The summons have retreated back into the far plane or are out in the world encased in crystals to prevent anyone from using their powers. But the Empire in 6 find a way to harness said power, and thus killing the summons. It is up to Celes and company also to take up the original reins of heroes to defeat the Empire. But it's the jester Kefka who puts things out of whack and destroys the world. Where multiple people before him have failed, including Hein himself, Kefka does succeed. With the world deteriorating as it is, the team defeats Kefka, but is still left in this really a post-apocalyptic type world. Everything is falling apart. There are monsters running amok. So they gather everybody they could and built smaller industrialized cities, and thus Final Fantasy VII comes to be. 7, on the other hand, is a dystopian future. Everything is bad. If you don't live in a city or a well-protected area, you will be overrun with monsters. The Lunarians, yes, these guys have returned. They're the ancient race from 4. They are known as a different group. These are called the Ancients this time. They come from space, and Eris is the last blood-born member of their race, with Sephiroth being a clone of this, or imbued with the powers of the Ancients. It is up to Cloud and company to stop Sephiroth from destroying what is left of the world. He succeeds not once, but twice, as in the Final Fantasy movie. Yes, I'm bringing this one in. Advent Children, so you guys would know, fights Sephiroth and wins once again. And thus, these shanty industrialized towns upgrade their technology. They're still few and far between, and the world is still filled with monsters, but we have more technological industrial worlds. Things are more futuristic. Some cities have become large, like Esther. Some are small, like Windhill. This is the events of Final Fantasy VIII, where we meet the next incarnation of Hein. This time, he revives himself as the sorceress Ultimacia. If you read the Ultimatum, I think that's how you pronounce it right now, you will realize that the goddess, or the sorceress Hein, has the exact characteristics of the warrior, or the mage Hein, all the way back in Final Fantasy III. So he is using his powers to jump between sorceress to sorceress until he joins up with Ultimacia. After going from Adea to Riona to Ultimacia, they are the same person. But like everybody before him, Hein's ability to travel time ends up being his downfall, and then once again, it's foiled by Squall's party as they go forward in time, stop Hines for the last time, making sure he's dead completely this time. But as always, that's not the case. This is where they go back in time and tell everybody, hey, this is what we saw. We have to prevent this. So they clear out the world as best they could, but fail and do so. So they create a new world. They create a man made world. Thus, Final Fantasy XIII. The world of Cocoon is this man made world, a world that the humans built to get away from the monster infested world of Grand Pulse. Now, once they are on this area, things start deteriorating a little bit, but not to a bad point. If you were found to be a monster, or if you're found to be different than the way they do things, they send you to Grand Pulse. Well, they say that, but they just kill you. But that's where the fal'Cie come into play. The fal'Cie are a race of characters, or a group of characters put together by an unknown entity who's using them to get back at Cocoon. This creature is known as the Orphan fal'Cie, or the fal'Cie Orphan, whichever you want to call it. The team betrays their master and defeats Orphan, which, in again, is another form of Hein. After these events, mankind has to go back to the monster infested world of Grand Pulse, as Cocoon is now encased in crystal. So it is up to Serah to traverse time while destroying it in the process, making paradoxes, changing things to how she sees the world should fit, and thus her being the reason of Final Fantasy 13-3. Upon her death in 13-2, Serah's actions have caused a catastrophic event that will take 1,000 years to repair, or to do. It is up to Lightning, who is now imbued with the powers of light, also known as the Warrior of Light, aka the Heroes of Light from the first era. She imbues these powers to try and save as many people that she can. She knows that she cannot defeat what is coming. She cannot win. So the best thing she can do is save as many people as possible, grabbing their souls like a modern day Valkyrie from on the Norse battlefields, collecting the souls of the fallens to help at the battle. But instead of battle of Ragnarok, it's to help rebuild the next world. Lightning finds out that the so-called god she was working for is trying to selectively take people to breed them. And thus, this is the official final form of Hein. He became a god and has successfully destroyed the world. It is up to Lightning by herself to destroy this god. She succeeds, and with the final crystal in this world, she rebuilds a new world for the people to live on, and thus ends the second era. Now, there's not much known between this one and the next set because too much time has passed. But if I am remembering all this correctly, the world of Ivalice has had thousands upon thousands of years of history. If you want to know the full history, please go check out that video. But for right now, this is where the world of Ivalice has come in. They are working side by side with the Eidolons. They are using the powers of the crystals as transportation, teleportation, as power for all their technology, or what little there is of it, while the world is vast and open. There is a lot of time travel going on with one specific person. It even goes into the regular past. The regular present. There is too much here for me to give a quick explanation. But if you want to know the full timeline of that, go check out my Ivalice video. But Ivalice is the final era because with the MMOs at the very end, the world is always expanding. And that's it, guys. That is my timeline. Whether you want to agree with it or not, this is it. This is my opinion. So please leave comments in the in the comment section below. If there's any plot holes, I'm probably sure there is. And just like most other theories, this is my own opinion. Okay? Be it wrong, be it right, who knows? But I hope you guys will look at this and think on it. Maybe make your own timeline. Prove me wrong. Go through the whole timeline. Prove me wrong. I want to see what you guys come up with. So, as of right now, the 28th of December in 2017, this is my timeline. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you guys want me to do another timeline series, let me know. I'm actually looking into doing a lore series on a different game. Look forward to that here in the next couple of months while I finish recovering from this. This took me a year and a half to do. So thank you guys. Again, with the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching. This has been my most successful series, and I hope you guys tune in to my next series. But for now, thank you guys once again. And until next time, have a good one.